Yeah, we are here today in the Flowing Arts Academy in Klagenfurt. I would like to introduce you to the founder of this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school and a good friend of mine, Martin Guggi.
Pleasure.
Yeah. We know each other for a very long time. You started karate at what age? At
16.
At 16, and like me, you were also a student of Reinhold Hirsch, and we trained Shotokan karate together. About 15 years ago, you decided to go a different way, and you chose the way of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When I look back at my time, I also had a time when I trained like crazy, and karate was very important for me, but I must say you are incomparable. You train almost every day, and I don't know anyone who is so dedicated to the martial arts like you. It's remarkable with what enthusiasm, dedication and love you train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm very happy that you spend the time with me here with this interview and that you share your knowledge with me. Thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
Yeah. I would like to start with the first question. Can you give us a brief overview of your background in the martial arts?
Yes, of course. Yeah, like you said, when I was 16, before I trained gymnastics, handball, basketball, and then when I was 16, I didn't like the group sports anymore, and I started to look for training where I can focus more on myself. And then a friend introduced me to Reinhold Hirsch, our sensei, and I started to train karate. Karate was part of my journey for a very long time, and what I also always liked about karate, about Reinhold Hirsch, is that he not only trained Shotokan karate, he also trained not high level, but we also trained judo, we also trained ground fighting, we also with weapons, with a lot of different stuff, iado, for example. And this I always liked, to see, to experience a lot of different martial arts. Of course, we trained judo, we couldn't throw people, but we know a lot of judo throws, and this was what I always really liked about the training. Later on, when I went to university to study sports, I also started kickboxing, Thai boxing, and 2009 I had one amateur MMA fight. And yeah, at this time I also got involved more with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and this was then my path which I followed until today.
Yeah, thank you very much. One topic I'm very interested in now is the secret techniques or the special techniques in martial arts. And you know both worlds. You know the world of sport competition, and you also know the world of traditional karate. Therefore, it is very exciting for me to learn from your opinion and from your ideas. You have gained a very comprehensive insight into the different fighting systems, and you were involved in traditional karate for a very long time, and later switched to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So can you still remember the reasons why you switched from karate to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
When I remember, there was more reasons, but first of all, karate was the perfect martial art for the perfect time for me. When I was young, I was 16, I was part of a group, I was part of men which I looked up to and I really respected a lot. Later on, I would say the reality hit me a little bit, and after learning 80 forms, I was, one more form for what? One more kata? I didn't have a clue why to learn one more.
Okay.
And I like the bunkai a lot, I like the way to see the techniques and to experience and train them, but in the end, we never sparred to it, right? And you can be a master in one martial art and train for 20 years and never fight, right? And you also get the black belt. But Reinhold Hirsch, our sensei, he came from another world. He was a kickboxer, and he always said, what we do with our katas is gymnastics. Yeah. What we do is when you want to fight, you don't need 80 katas, you need 2 years. Yeah. And if you can fight in 2 years, you're good. If not, then you did something wrong. Yeah. And in the end, this always stuck into my head, and he always knew that the way he was teaching us was more for groups, for kids, for people who are more, I would say, academic into martial arts, but not for fighters.
Okay.
And then when I experienced kickboxing, Thai boxing, and competed also in MMA, I saw the other side, and then I say, okay, this is good, I know how to fight a little bit now, or I experience it a little bit, but in the end, when I look at MMA, for example, today, I would say 80% of MMA people are a little bit stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, with all respect for their training and everything, but you have to have a special mindset to fight hard for your life. And then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was the middle, right? I know what we do on the ground is a game. We are fighting to submit each other. It's not 100% fighting, but on the other side, it's also not no fighting. We spar every class. We try to submit us. We try to spar hard. We spar without punching. Of course, it's different than on the street and everything, but we spar. And this is what I missed a little bit in karate, and this was the reality which I didn't see behind the forms and the katas.
Okay, so the form, the kata is more tradition, and with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu you are somewhere in the middle between fighting and tradition.
Yes, I mean it's I would say today when you want to learn a martial art for fighting, you have to choose a martial art for sparring or ando racing with.
Yeah.
Like Thai boxing, MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but never. But also see that it's different than fighting on the street, different than self-defense, because all these forms teach combat, but self-defense is not combat. It's part of combat, but it's different. MMA is combat, but it's a combat in a sport. So don't think when you train combat, you always train for the street, you always train for self-defense or for a sport. Everything is combat, but you have to choose which kind of combat you prefer and which price you want to pay. Because there's a price you pay. If you get hit every day on your head, there's a price to pay. And for me, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the middle way. Okay, smart way of fighting. You don't hurt somebody, but in the end, you also fight.
So isn't it important that anyway, if you practice Aikido, BJJ, karate, Thai boxing, that you have to know what you train. You have to know what is the outcome.
I think this is not the outcome. I think you should know it in advance. And this is, I think, the marketing problem a lot of martial arts schools have. They promise you something they cannot deliver. Okay? Like everybody says, oh, I train self-defense. No, you're not training self-defense, you train an art. Oh, I train for street fighting. No, you're not training sport. Okay, and they think that it's marketing very often, but people, they start martial art for various reasons, for self-defense, for fitness, but they stick with martial art for a different reason, okay, like the camaraderie atmosphere. That's why they stick to martial art. It's not because they want to be a world champion, no, perhaps they want to start because of this, but they stay because of another reason.
What was interesting, you talked about the kata and that you usually learned more than 80 katas. So if we compare different schools, if we talk about karate, the most of the traditional schools they have the kata, and the kata was the main aspect or the main vehicle with which the tradition was passed on from generation to generation. And when you look at the sport-oriented school like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or the self-defense oriented schools like Krav Maga, there are no kata at all. So what do you think? Do you think about kata? You know both worlds. So is there a good reason to train kata, or is this just an empty form?
Okay. First, whatever I say now is with deep respect for all martial arts, and I don't want to say that my way is the right way. Everybody has one way, and you have to choose if it's the right way for you or not. For me, I see it like this. In martial arts in general, you have techniques you can train in a safe way, but then you have techniques you cannot train in a safe way. You cannot train a groin kick or eye gouging or whatever every day without hurting your partner. So it's a little bit easy that you say, okay, this is not possible to train every day. And I think Jigoro Kano, the founder of Judo, was the guy who started to change techniques, said there are safe techniques. Safe, I mean, I can practice safe, but they are still dangerous, but I can practice safe. And there are techniques you cannot train safe because you always have to hurt the partner. And what I see today is, and perhaps this was also the idea behind the kata, in the kata you can practice techniques which are not safe. Okay, like kicking to the groin, eyes and whatever. On the other side, when sports started to develop, I think the whole martial arts changed, because then training a kata, I would say today is a waste of time. Okay, to give it to a student as a vehicle to transform information, I see there's a value to it. But when you have your student, why to give him 80 katas? Then okay, you have to train the katas, and if you don't train them long enough, you're not, you cannot learn the secret techniques behind it. No, you waste the time of the student. The student can train much more effective if this is the goal, and much more practical with another partner, with drilling, with sparring and stuff like this, without the kata. Okay, but of course, for techniques which are not very safe, of course, then the kata is a way to train it, and it's probably the only use. What I see a little bit today, that what we did when we trained kata, we saw everything in the kata. There are judo throws involved, there are pressure points involved, there are kicks involved, there are, I don't know, takedowns, whatever, submissions from. And this, I would say, is, of course, you can see everything because our body, we have 2 arms, 2 legs, and we will see it some way. If you turn into kata, yes, that's probably a throw. But in the end, yes, if this is a throw, why don't you practice the throw?
Okay. Yeah, I understand you. So you think the kata, if you go for a street fight or if you go for a sport competition, the kata is useless?
Yes. If your goal is you want to learn how to fight, I would say combat, if you want to learn a form of combat, then the kata is useless. But if you want to give your students a kata, yes, then it's 1 or 2 forms, but it cannot be 100 or 200 forms, right? And on the other side too, I would say martial arts also are starting to evolve, right? We have the internet now, we have DVDs, so you can learn from everyone, right? You don't need the time to think, oh, what could the master have thought about this move? Okay, this is for me.
You easily find 10 possibilities on the internet.
You find it. So.
And what about the energetic aspect? So if you look to the old Chinese systems, they had the kata, but it was also combined with energetic philosophies. Do you think that's a point where it's worse to learn kata or to train kata? Maybe you get some special feeling if you train the kata 100 times for 10 years.
I mean, the discipline, or what they call it Bushido, if you stick to something for a long time, if it's kata, if it's painting, or there are different forms, or archery, right? Of course you will learn something, but then don't tell me that we are training a martial art. Okay, tell me we only an art. Okay, without the martial, okay, without fighting. Definitely it's great, and that's what I see today. Not only about karate, I would say Wing Chun goes in the same direction. It's like an academic form of martial arts. We say we train. I mean, I can compare it with another point. You know, Mr. Miyagi, the Karate Kid.
Karate Kid.
He never fought one day. He never sparred one day in his life, but he could beat the guy who's in Cobra Kai and spars every day. I mean, that's television, right? And I think also Wing Chun and karate, sometimes they go into this direction. They want to tell people that they are fighting, but in the end, no, it's painting. Great, everything is great, but the marketing is wrong.
Okay. Let's talk about tradition. So many classical martial arts, like the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu or also karate schools, are based on tradition. So for many schools, it's important to pass on the the way of the martial arts, so to train, to get a better person, to get more inner calmness, to get a better and more relaxed person. When we look at the UFC championships, I think they started in 1993, and when I look at the instruction DVDs or the fight of that time from 1993 or the 90s, and I compare it to the DVDs I see today and also to the fights we see today, you see a big difference. So what you see is that there is a big evolution in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so that you can't compare the Jiu-Jitsu of the 90s with today. So what happened there? Why is traditional karate or the traditional schools, it looks like they are standing on the point, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu there is a lot of evolution.
I think it's because of the sport. Okay, sports have to evolve and get better and start to improve, get more effective, find new training method and stuff like this. And karate, the main vehicle was the kata. And the kata is not changing. It's always the same, right? You can change your perspective about martial arts and then you see it in the kata, but the kata is not changing. And I think tradition is always a form when you I want to say tradition is always bad, but tradition also has the bad benefit, bad point, that it can hold you back, okay? Because you think what you train, you have to respect your masters and all the stuff. I even think one guy told me once, or perhaps it was even you, said when Kankan Toyama would see me training the same form again, he would
stand up from his grave.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, we have to continue, and I mean, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's so many techniques which still are not, I wouldn't say they're secret, but they can be more specialized for the competition and for a lot of stuff, and that's why Jiu-Jitsu is so improving and everybody is helping, okay? I mean, in karate, or perhaps in other forms too, everybody's by himself, or I cannot give the secrets to somebody else, because I think the mystic part is a very big and very important step for karate. And in sports, there's no mystic. It's just, okay, we train. I train more than you, and then perhaps I train a different way than you train. That's why, because I can improve, but it's not mystic.
It's interesting that you say that, because in karate maybe there's no competition, but I think that the not everywhere, but the different traditional schools, they have a competition not not to exchange the technique and not to exchange the kata, and everybody, or some people say that this is the only kata, that's the only true kata which was passed on over generations. And in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's like a big family. There's not so much competition.
It should be. It's not always the case, but it is. I think what's very important, you said at the beginning, when we look at martial arts, we always trace the history back to samurai. And the samurai, they were serving the people, they were trying to protect the other guys, stuff like this, and that's why martial art came out of. In the end, this is a very romantic story, right? We all know that that's not the truth. In the beginning, it was just fighting. It was just who can kill the other guy faster than I can, whatever. Then when this fighting was not so important anymore, then this development of character and all this stuff started to get more important. And I mean, this is a great way to teach kids, a great way to see your life, but it's also very romantic, right? Sometimes fighting is not has the better character. It's who is the better guy on the field, right? Or on the mat. On the other side, if we want to split the character development and fighting alone, then of course I don't think it's also the best way how to develop martial arts. And I think this also we see a little bit in MMA, for example. But for me, it's not the style, or it's always the character stands behind. And if I'm an open person, I go to other schools and train with them. If I'm an open person in karate, I go to other schools and train with them. Even if my teacher said, no, I cannot give secrets away. But I think whatever we do, in the end, we always, the trap is our own ego.
Absolutely. And I think that's also, if we say the do is very important in karate, it depends on the teacher or on the person. So if the person is walking his way and he can transfer his knowledge and his concepts to his students, that's great. If he cannot, the students will learn nothing about do. And I think the same is in football.
In every sport. The teacher can guide people in a good way or in a bad way. But this is not because of karate. Of course, it should be more important in martial arts, because we teach probably techniques that can hurt somebody else. In football, you cannot hurt somebody, but on the game, of course you can, right? And I think that's why it is important, but it's not only because of the do. The do is everything you do is your do, and not because you do karate.
Let's talk about your teacher. Your main teacher is Professor Renato. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about him. And I think you learned the main part of your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from him, but you also had a lot of other teachers. You also learned Luta Livre. And how can I imagine these different teachers? Do you learn the same Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with every teacher, or do you get different aspects of the art? So for instance, one teacher is specialized in ground fighting, the other one is specialized in takedowns, the other one in gripping techniques.
Yeah. That's a very interesting question, because when we look at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu today, I would say we have four ways to see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's the sport way, in the gi, like we have now, is no gi, then or no gi luta libre, submission wrestling. Then we have mixed martial arts, and then we have self-defense.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the beginning, when my teacher, Professor Renato, when he learned from Heinrich Gracie, one of his students, everything was the same. Okay. If you did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you trained for MMA, you trained for the street, you trained for competition in the gi or no gi.
Yeah.
Today, I would say all these aspects, they start to develop in a different direction.
Okay.
Okay. So if I teach no gi, I cannot say that I'm good in the gi or also MMA.
Yeah.
Okay. If you involve punching into grappling, of course the core is the same. But the core is the same for a pitching or lifting the ball up in beach volleyball or volleyball.
Yeah.
But beach volleyball and volleyball are different sports.
Okay.
If I go skiing, I'm not a downhill skier or a slalom racer, but I learn skiing in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think the core is the same. But if you want to really get to higher quality from training or teaching, you have to specialize today.
Yeah.
Okay. And Professor Nato is trying to do everything a little bit, and that's how he learned it. Today, there are, for example, in Nogi, there are leg locks a huge part, and this was not in the past so important. And I think that if you really want to improve in Nogi area, you have to start training leg locks. It's very important, because you can attack the legs for every position.
But you with your students, you also go to competition, and you are also specialized in Nogi or Gi? Or?
We do these two sports aspects, Nogi and Gi. And today I would say I focus more on the Nogi part, because I like the Gi part, and most of the time I did only Gi. But the no-gi is evolving for me in a more interesting direction than the gi. The gi, you have more acrobatic art forms now, and the no-gi, it's still closer to fighting. It's still closer to MMA, and for me this is more realistic.
Yeah.
You know, it's still sport, but it's more realistic than the gi and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Okay. The fourth part, the self-defense, I think this is very interesting, because everybody claims to be train self-defense.
Yeah.
Today, I would say if you want to train self-defense, try to focus on a sport where sparring is involved, but then you have to also train have a specialized training.
Yeah.
Because we train combat, but combat is not self-defense.
Yeah.
Self-defense, you need, I don't go there. How do I stop the situation? No, what we do is we fight, right?
Yeah.
We want to get better in fighting.
Yeah.
We don't want to stop the escalation before or how to stop it fast.
Yeah. But you train karate, and you train karate and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for almost 20 years. How many real fighting situations on the street did you have?
None, to be honest, because I was not the guy to go out a lot. But yeah, I think this is, if you really want to fight, you find some situations, but if you know how to behave, or I would say it's part of my do. I train martial arts because I like them, but I don't need to challenge my ego outside of the gym.
Yeah, I just like to ask this question because many people like to train self-defense, and they train self-defense for 20, 30 years, but they don't have even one real fighting situation. So,
I mean, that's where we live. It's very rare. I mean, there are other areas, but that's more important. But then I think it would be more important to train with weapons, not just how to learn to fight with your body.
Yeah, you're right. But I'd like to go back to your teachers. So, do they teach different aspects? Are they specialized in techniques?
Of course, guys who were competitors, they have to be specialized in techniques. Like you said in the beginning, I think there are no secret techniques anymore. Secret is a term of the past, when no internet was and stuff like this, and for mystics. But today we have specialized techniques where I am better than the other guy because I understand the technique better than the other guy. But it's not a hidden technique, right? Specialized, yes, definitely.
And what is your personal training look like? Do you have your special techniques you're training on? And if yes, how long do you spend on a technique?
I would say I would spend 4 to 6 months on a technique or a technique block. And then I want to continue, because if I keep training the same technique again in sports, everybody knows what I'm doing. So you have to start to develop, because there is no fight anymore when not 10 handies are filming your competition, right? And so the next time you compete again, everybody knows the game.
Okay, so if you are specialized in leg locks and you go to the competition, everybody knows. Okay, that's the guy with the leg locks, and we.
I mean, you still can win with leg locks, but of course, it's no secret anymore that I go for leg locks. And that's why I also have to develop my style more, different entrances, different setups, different ways to finish, and that's also the fun part, right? Because it's never over. And if you train 40 years and you think you train every day, man, you're still a beginner.
Okay. So I have one last question for you. If a student comes to you, let's say he trains 4 or 5 years with you and he comes to you, and as we said, there are no secrets in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but when he asks you what is, not the secret, but what is the essence of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what is the essence of the martial arts in general, what would your answer?
I mean, the essence of my martial art is that I can help other students to involve. I can other people give a home where they learn something, where they are part of a group, where part of a team, and we try to grow together. Of course, the technique is always, or the training is also always priority, but in the end, so many stuff happens next to the mat, and I think this is the main goal: give somebody a home, give them a goal to go together with you. In the end, I mean, we won't get world champions, right? But we will have fun together, we will enjoy life together, we will see and share good and bad stories, and I think this is most important than if I have a secret technique, if I train karate, Krav Maga, MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's all the same, give somebody home.
Yeah, I think that's a very wise question, and if somebody improves in the sport, in competition, he will also improve in life.
I mean, I prepare an instructor course right now, and there's one of the quotes I start the course with is, people don't value how much knowledge you have until they know you care about them. And I think this sums up this very, very good.
Super quote at the end. Martin, thank you very much for the interview, for your knowledge that you share with me and with the audience. It was absolutely great. And I wish you much success for your personal training and for your future projects. And I hope that we can cooperate in the future.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.